Hi, good evening, everybody. Happy August. I want to thank everybody who's joining us in person tonight and those who are online. I do want to remind everybody that when we get to public comment, it is only accepted in person, and we are live streaming only via, or viewing only on Facebook, and the replay is always available. So adequate notice of this meeting as required by the Open Public Meetings Act was provided through the posting, mailing, and filing of the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings of the Town Council on December 13, 2022. The notice was on that date posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, provided to the Westfield Leader in the Star Ledger, and filed with the clerk of the town of Westfield. Ms. Lawshe, may I have a roll call?
Mayor Brindle?
Here.
Council members Hobgood?
Here.
Farmley? Here. LaGrippa?
Here.
Katz?
Here.
Mackey? Contract?
Here.
Dardia?
Here.
Root?
Here.
Please rise for the invocation, which will be given by Councilman Katz, and remain standing for the salute.
We meet to serve our community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, and to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognize our responsibility to the past and the future, and the rights and needs of both individuals and community. As trusted servants, we seek support on our deliberations and our efforts here today. May we act wisely and well. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Jim, any comments tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. A few comments on a few things. So first, we're back to paving updates. If you've been out in the field there, the utility company is using their third-party contractor to do a lot of paving after some of the utility work that's been done. So that's great. Since January this year, we've had 23 roads or sections of roads completed as of today by Elizabethtown Gas Paving Company, which is pretty remarkable. And they have a lot more to do. So just a reminder, they finished their work. Their work the trenches have to settle, and they come back, and then we'll pave curb to curb, intersection where appropriate. They're doing a really good job. So thank you to ETG and their third-party paving company. So as of today, they are working on the grid of Westfield Avenue, Summit Boulevard, Temple Place, Carlton, and Park. The grid that started the milling process today of sections of road on those streets. The one area of Summit, for those, just a reminder, the town has a state aid project from Summit, on Summit from South to Clifton. So they're going to do a small portion of Summit. We're going to do the rest with their own contractor. But that's something they're working on that grid now, and I expect to be done by the end of this week, early next week. Next week, they'll jump to the grid of Clark Street, Tuttle Parkway, Ludlow, Nelson, Charles Street, and Copperthwaite. And again, we've asked them to do these things in areas around schools so that this is all done before school open. So for example, Clark Street is right in front of Roosevelt School, and that whole grid there, and Westfield Avenue is by the high school. So a lot of these things are being done. So they're really being very cooperative. So a lot of paving is going on, and they're moving forward. A lot more updates to come. In addition to that, the road paving contractor by the town was hired, and is getting ready to start next week with some concrete work, ADA compliant ramps. They're actually going to be starting on Lincoln Road and Webster Avenue because that's by Franklin School again. So they'll be doing concrete ADA ramps and then paving and milling and paving those before school starts, and then moving on to the rest of our roads list. So we're going to have a very comprehensive road update in the next week and a half on our website of potential schedule of our road projects in addition to the Elizabethtown Gas road projects. So a lot of road paving coming up September, October, November. So some inconvenience, but for a good cause. And I'm sad that Councilman Mackey's not here. Hazel Avenue was just paved by the utility company, and I think it was maybe over 40 years since that road was paved. So I know that's a big benefit for those residents over there. So just a reminder, if you haven't signed up for Nixle, the public, please do. We're getting Nixle reports out every morning for the road closures or temporary closures for paving, and it's working very well, but a lot of paving coming up. Two other topics, Windsor Park. I mentioned Windsor Park. Recreation Commission wanted me to mention tonight. Windsor Park is now on its second year of upgrades. We actually applied for grants last year and this year and received grants for some improvements to Windsor Park. For those of you to just remember, we had actually worked out a deal with the Westfield Crossing Development to have a contribution from the Westfield Crossing Development come to actually use to improve Windsor Park. That contribution, while it will come, is not come yet because it's contingent upon certificates of occupancy for that development. So the town moved forward anyway with this park improvement fund and grant funding to make improvements to Windsor Park both last year and this year. So we are in the process of wrapping up the second phase improvements to Windsor Park, which included new playground, new shade structure was just installed this week. We have new basketball backboards and hoops, padding on the backboard or the poles for the hoops, new fence around the whole complex, which is recently completed. There'll be more picnic tables coming, or new picnic tables coming in, new garbage cans. And right now, we're at a point where a lot of the heavy stuff has been done. So now we have a lot of site work and restoration to do. Grass planting, stone dust drainage, so that's all gonna hopefully be done in the next few weeks. And I just want to thank Public Works and Recreation Commission for getting that work done. And it's been a lot of work the past 2 years, but really, if you haven't been out there, it's still rough right now because the restoration has to be done, but a lot of the installations really look good, and it's a nice addition there. So that'll all be going on the next 2 weeks now before Labor Day. Last update I have is about PSE&G. As we reported back in June, the mayor, I think you reported, Mayor, that the courts had ruled in favor of PSE&G on their lawsuit they filed against us for our ordinance we put in place back in April of 2022, or before that, actually, to try to regulate the public right-of-way and what utilities can do in the public right-of-way. They filed a lawsuit against that ordinance, and there was a summary judgment motion that came out recently in June that actually was not in favor of the town's position, that we couldn't not only regulate those activities in the public right-of-way, but we also couldn't control any kind of route decisions when PSE&G is installing things in town. So that's disappointing, of course, and that's something that obviously we want to continue to try to fight. What we've done since that ruling has come out, we've discussed it obviously internally, we filed an appeal against that summary judgment decision, and that will obviously take its own course, but an appeal process, it does take quite a while to actually play out. It could take months or years depending on the court schedule, available judges, et cetera. So we've been informed just recently, obviously this past couple of days, by PSE&G that despite the appeal going on, they're going to decide to move forward with this project. They have a right to do that if they choose to at their own risk, and they're deciding to do that. What that means is they will expect to probably start communications with people along the 69 kV route, as has been referred to, which is really starting on Central Avenue, at the Central Avenue border of Westfield and Clark, up Central Avenue to South Avenue, which then make a left on South Avenue towards Scotch Plains. That's the Westfield portion of the route. The route actually goes all the way to Fanwood on one direction, and then goes from Westfield down Central through Clark, through multiple towns, Roselle Park, Kenilworth, Union, all the way to Springfield. So we're one part of this long route, but they're looking to proceed at their own risk despite our appeal. So that's unfortunate, and we really can't do a lot about that. But I want to just tell the public and the council that if they do decide to do that, which we expect will happen starting later this week with communications will start, be followed by some initial work on pole assessment, and then that'll be followed by tree work, which is mostly pruning, some removals, which will be followed by pole replacements, and then followed by wire work. PSE&G informs us that the project will take 9 months or less to complete. Of course, weather dependent on that, of course. I do want to say, though, that, even though this is something that we're not obviously in favor of, the good news from a public perspective is the PSE&G staff and town staff, we've always had an excellent working relationship. And even though we're not excited about this project, we will continue to work with them to make sure that the project is implemented properly. We help them with the communications, and anything they provide us, we will provide on our website for the general public and anyone who has questions, everything from route maps, photos, numbers to call, FAQs, letters, documentation. We do this for all utility projects, but this has been one that's been talked about for such a long time. We want to make sure, and PSE&G is committed to get us that information, which I expect they will, and that we can share. But again, that's the update as of right now, that we expect communications to go out on this project, 69 kV on the Central and South Avenue corridors, starting later this week, and be followed in August, September, October, et cetera, going forward. So that's the update.
Thank you, Jim.
Great. Thanks so
Appreciate
much.
that.
Yeah,
And
sure.
Tom, did you want to just apprise maybe give a little update on the legal process?
In addition to what the town administrator said, I just want to reiterate what we discussed in the executive session. As the town administrator indicated, we filed an appeal of this action. That appeal will take its course on the normal course. But in addition to that, we will take all such other actions as we need to preserve the town's rights and to prevent PSE&G from changing the facts on the ground as our appeal progresses. So we'll take such legal action as we need to prevent the project from going forward, and we will, of course, pursue our appeal until its final conclusion.
Thank you. And just to reiterate, I think I speak on behalf of all of us, how disappointed we are in this decision by PSE&G. And I'm really sorry to report that at this point, we have exhausted all of our options to stop this project from moving forward today. As I have mentioned in previous meetings, I have been in touch with Senator John Bramnick about this issue, who, along with all of us, was vocally opposed to this project in 2019. But in light of the recent court ruling, which was actually handed down by a former Westfield councilman as judge, he's not engaged in any current effort to prevent this project from coming through Westfield. And as Jim said, I mean, we have traditionally had a very productive and good working relationship with PSE&G, and their decision to proceed in this manner before the legal process has fully transpired is disappointing. I believe that after decades of working collaboratively, we deserve better, and that more time would allow us to ensure the most optimal outcome for our residents. We continue to hope that PSE&G will come to the table and afford us some more time to discuss how we can best work together, and they have a standing invitation to do so. In the meantime, we do remain committed to advocating for our businesses and residents to mitigate the impact of this project. And as Jim said, as soon as we have detailed information, I'm sure there'll be lots of questions for the public. It'll be on our website, and we'll be giving you as much information as quickly as we get it. So stay tuned. But in better news, I do just want to share another opportunity to remind everybody the exciting news that 1 Westfield Place, also known as the Lord and Taylor Train Station Redevelopment Plan, has been named a winner of the 2023 New Jersey Future Smart Growth Awards and will be awarded at a ceremony in New Brunswick on October 3rd. These Smart Growth Awards recognize projects, plans, and policies across the state that demonstrate smart growth principles and actions. This ceremony in October honors 7 groundbreaking redevelopment projects that contribute to making New Jersey communities sustainable, equitable, and strong. And so I just want to make sure that the proper people get credit for this. The 1 Westfield Place submission, it covered many components, from community impact and engagement, climate resilience, expanded housing choices, mix of uses and accessibility, green stormwater infrastructure, and more. And our partner agencies also recommended as part of the submission. Some of them are here tonight. Chris Colley from Topology, Liz Jeffrey from, who's our economic development advisor, and then of course our our parking and traffic consultant, and our redevelopment council, Greenbaum Rowe, Smith and Davis. So it was a great team of professionals that actually, after many years of working together and with the public, got us to a process that ultimately is being recognized in October. So luckily, I just want to make sure that the community should be really proud of this recognition and enthusiastic about the exciting prospects for our downtown. On a separate note, I know there's been a topic of recent car thefts and burglaries. And to that end, last week, Chief Badalora and I, along with mayors and police chiefs from Cranford, Summit, and Scotch Plains, attended a roundtable discussion at our request with Union County Prosecutor Bill Daniels and his team of deputy prosecutors and investigators to discuss the urgent need to more aggressively address the public safety issues that car thefts have presented in our community and throughout New Jersey. We discussed how we can better collaborate with the prosecutor's office and share information across municipalities, as well as the implications of new car theft penalty legislation that enables prosecutors to detain repeat car theft offenders, and the potential for additional legislative measures addressing the increasing occurrence of juvenile crime. I think we all left optimistic about the potential of this new legislation to serve as a deterrent to criminals, especially repeat offenders, but we also acknowledge that it's not enough, and as car thefts continue to be a statewide problem, and as you've likely read in recent weeks, have escalated in some cases to home burglaries in order to obtain key fobs. We reiterated that the Union County mayors are committed to being advocates at all levels of government for solutions that address this issue, particularly with our state legislators. I reminded them that nobody gets legislators more motivated than to see a group of bipartisan angry mayors, and they need to take advantage of that. Here in Westfield, we will continue to provide our police department with the staffing and equipment necessary so that they remain one of the top departments in the state. And I'm sure you will join me in expressing our gratitude for their tireless work to protect our community. And I just want to remind everybody, while the police do their part, we just need to continue to do ours. Lock our cars and homes at all hours, activate alarm systems, light property overnight, and immediately call 911 if you see any suspicious activity. And I tell people this all the time. Some people feel like it's nothing and they don't want to bother the police. The police want to be bothered. If you see something happening, a light goes on that's not supposed to or anything, there's police patrolling the streets all the time. They get simply just redirected to that street to just check out what's happening. So it's not a bother. They want to be bothered. It's one of the main opportunities they have for crime prevention. So please see something, say something. For our history buffs, of which I am one, you don't miss our 4th annual March to Yorktown Day on Sunday, August 27th from 12 to 4 in Mindawaskin Park. I see Julie Diddell and Jay Hershey over there from the Rochambeau group who orchestrates this. This unique event commemorates the Continental Line of troops that marched from Newport, Rhode Island to Yorktown, Virginia, passing through Westfield on August 29, 1781 on the way to Princeton to meet with 2 columns of the French army before they combined forces on their way to Yorktown to besiege the position of British General Lord Cornwallis. This route has been designated as the Washington-Rochambeau Revolutionary Route National Historic Trail, a unit of the National Park Service, and I'm very proud that I think Westfield was one of the first, if not the only, to designate an annual March to Yorktown Day, which we celebrate. So thrilled with this new tradition in town. So it gets bigger every year. So this year, in addition to the opening ceremony and parade, this afternoon will feature an encampment with historical reenactors, open fire cooking demonstrations. You hear that, Chief? You're on it, right? Drills, informational tables, food trucks, and classic cars. So once again, I do want to thank Westfield resident Julie Dudell, who serves as chair of the Washington-Rochambeau Revolutionary Route New Jersey Association, for bringing this incredible piece of Westfield's history to life for the community. And so tonight, just on our agenda, we have several legislative items that I'd like to highlight, starting with the Public Safety, Transportation, and Parking Committee led by Councilman Root, and I'm going to hand it over to her to give you a brief update of what we're discussing this evening.
Today, we're going to be talking about going to the fire department study after the department and discuss that, and we're also going to see about 10 more solar-powered speed displays, and that's something that's really going to be helping us, helping our police department. Oh, thank you. I didn't have that. Thank you. That's really important. So we have several resolutions tonight pertaining to initiatives advanced by the Public Safety Committee. The first is a resolution to award a contract to All City Management Services, ACMS. As you know, we have utilized the services of ACMS since 2019 to oversee the school crossing guard program. Over the last 4 years, Westfield has benefited from ACMS over 30 years of experience across the country, managing some 6,000 crossing guards in 25 states. And this partnership provides dedicated support and expertise to our crossing guards, some of whom have been serving the school children in our community for decades. Importantly, it represents a much better use of taxpayer dollars by enabling our police officers to prioritize law enforcement and emergency response rather than consistently serving as crossing guards and overseeing recruiting and retention efforts for the program. ACMS's program in Westfield is managed locally by 2 supervisors who oversee the crossing guard program on a daily basis, from staffing to covering posts to ongoing communication with the police department as needed. Following the staffing issues posed by COVID, they maintained full staffing for the entire 2022-2023 school year, eliminating the need for police officers to fill posts. Previously, the police department had filled posts almost 100 days of the school year, which was reduced to only 3 days this past school year, which is great. A uniformed police officer will continue to direct traffic at the busy intersection of Dorian and Rahway Avenue in front of the high school. We look forward to another successful school year with their management services, with our amazing crossing guards throughout the community. We will also vote on resolutions, like I said before, to purchase 10 more solar speed signs throughout town and upgrade the 911 dispatch console, which is very good news. Lastly, we'll hear an ordinance on first reading to install 2 new stop signs, yes, and 3 new handicap spaces. This time in Ward 2, the new stop signs will be at the corner of Coolidge and Stevens, as well as at the corner of Coolidge and Sherman. Also great news. 2 of the new handicap spaces will be in front of Franklin Elementary on Prospect Street, and 1 will be located on Caciola Place. So that's, okay. Sorry, we're sharing one today. But we're good, we're recycling. So that's how we roll, guys.
Actually, I'm going to then hand it over, because we're finally talk about what's going on before we even have property committee.
Thanks, Mayor. From Code Review and Town Property Committee, we're going to be voting on a resolution to award a contract to an architectural firm, LeMay Erickson Wilcox, for a feasibility study on the location of a new fire department headquarters and renovations of Fire Station 2 on Central Avenue. And by way of background, this action is actually a continuation of services and is the third phase of work that actually started on this project back in 2016 by the previous administration. At that time, the town contracted with the same firm to conduct an assessment of both existing firehouses, followed by an assessment of program requirements for a potential new firehouse. Those reports were completed in 2018, and now that we have the plans for 1 Westfield Place, and now that those have been finalized, we're ready to take the next steps with respect to the firehouse. As the mayor has mentioned repeatedly, the pilot revenues from 1 Westfield Place will enable the town to not only fund public improvements on town-owned property, but also longer-term needed facility improvements, such as our main firehouse on North Avenue. Once a much-needed and modernized main firehouse is built in another location, the historic existing firehouse property will remain and be repurposed to accommodate other public benefits determined by community input, such as a community center, outdoor cafe bar, a combination thereof, for example. The next phase of this work, enabled by tonight's resolution, is being funded from our 2017 reserves specific to this initiative. So this is not funding that is coming from this year's municipal budget. This is a firehouse, at least the historic building was built more than 100 years ago and designed to accommodate horses and trailers. The equipment's gotten much better and much bigger in that time, and we've got an excellent fire department led by Chief Phelps. Yes, much faster, much faster. You know, the chief was pointing out earlier this evening that actually the equipment that we have we actually have to tailor it to design it specifically for the smaller confines of this historic building. So not only is this better equipment for the firemen themselves, or better facilities for the firemen themselves, it actually allows them to better service the community by being able to acquire equipment that's more standardized and sized for this community. So this is something that I support fully. We're also going to vote tonight on a resolution related to the November 7th referendum vote on the Edison Fields project. New Jersey law allows the governing body to adopt by resolution a brief interpretive statement to be included on the ballot, which serves to explain the nature of the public question and to assist voters in understanding the purpose of the referendum.
Thank you very much. And lastly, tonight we're also introducing a very exciting project, the Westfield American Legion Hall redevelopment plan. Thrilled to see many of our American Legion friends here in the audience. And I just want to give you some context before we hear the presentation by Chris Colley of Topology. The plan proposes repurposing the existing American Legion building to include approximately 21 affordable housing units, strictly for veterans, a rental banquet hall, and facilities for the veterans. Once the facility is running, a full-time Veterans Affairs representative will be on site to help veterans with job placement, resume writing, and counseling services. This initiative is a joint effort between the Martin Wahlberg American Legion Post 3, the Foundation for Sustainable Veteran Housing, and the town of Westfield, and allows for the American Legion's aging facility to be upgraded while addressing the shortage of affordable veterans housing in New Jersey. The project is being funded through private donations, grants, and a contribution for the town's Affordable Housing Trust Fund. This particular project in Westfield is part of a larger state initiative by the FSBH to upgrade American Legion sites in all 21 New Jersey counties over the next 5 to 10 years, with the goal of providing enough housing for all 442 current at-risk veterans statewide. So I do want to thank resident Joe Mendak. I don't know if he's here. Oh, he's sick, oh, bummer. I do want to thank resident Joe Mendak, who's really been spearheading this as he worked on a similar project in Hoboken, and he partnered with our American Legion Post 3 to get this plan underway. So across the country, we have many veterans in need of housing and other services, and this project can help Westfield play a role in meeting those goals for those who have bravely served our country. So I'm excited to hear from Chris and the redevelopment plan. So I think, is that first up, Jim? Yes. Yes, so with that, we'll introduce Chris for a presentation. And I don't know what technology we're using to make this happen, Jim. It shows up there. I don't know if that when we get to use the big screen that comes down.
You guys tested this before? No. There we go. All right. So, oh, here we go. Hold on. There we go. There we go. We're missing one screen. The right there.
Okay. All right. Good evening, council, members of the public. My name is Chris Colley. I am a redevelopment planner with Topology. We are your redevelopment planning consultant. Nice to see everybody again. Haven't been here for a few months. I have a very short presentation, about 8 minutes, to provide you an overview of this redevelopment plan. And it's funny how these things come about. Really, the origin of this project dates back a couple of years when the town was approached by the representatives of the American Legion, Post 3 here in town, with a way that they thought they could meet a need that they're seeing within the veterans community, as well as reinvent their facility to allow them to continue to serve a new generation of members. So I'm happy to be here talking through the redevelopment plan tonight that I think accomplishes those goals. And I'm happy to see so many members of the Legion in attendance. So just a little bit of refresher, in case you've forgotten, a redevelopment plan is a zoning document. It's a zoning document that is specific to a particular area, or in this case, property. A redevelopment plan is not a set of blueprints. It's sort of a first step in setting zoning, which ultimately will lead to a planning board application like any other project would. I think folks are familiar with the site, but it is just about the last property in Westfield, moving west along North Avenue. It's about 1.25 acres at the intersection of North Avenue West and Crossway Place. It's currently home to the American Legion Post 3. They've been there in that building since, I believe, the early 1950s. And statutorily, like how we got here, and this is just worth noting, is first the passage of the area need rehabilitation study that was done several years ago by Don Samet. You might know that redevelopment plans need to be in a rehab or a redevelopment area. This is a rehab area. What that means is there's no pilot that would be possible under this project. More significantly, though, I mentioned this project sort of has its genesis a few years back. If you look back into the town's 2021 master plan, there's a reference to it about the opportunity to pursue supportive housing for veterans at appropriate locations, such as the American Legion site. So that's that recommendation sort of coming to fruition here through this plan. And then sort of lastly, as a bit of history, some folks probably attended almost a year ago now, last September, a information session that was housed at the Legion Hall, sort of providing an overview of this project and really sort of setting the stage for this ultimate redevelopment plan, which you're considering tonight. All right, so the actual plan itself, accomplishes a lot of things, but I think there's three major outcomes that are important to highlight and really summarize everything. The first, and probably the most important one, is that this plan will create the opportunity to provide housing for a community that is in need of housing, specifically disabled and or homeless veterans. The mayor cited a stat before I came up here. I also have a stat, which is in 2022, 33,000 veterans across the country experienced homelessness, some 500 in New Jersey alone. So this facility, should it be approved and advanced, will do a small but important part in addressing that need. Two, and I think this is really important, as I mentioned, the Legion has been at that location for 70, 80 years. This project will allow them to create a new facility that modernizes their offerings, that expands their offerings, and really allows them to attract and support and serve a next generation of members. And then three, sort of moving off the site or zooming out a bit from the site, this is a very important parcel just for the town visually. This is a gateway property coming into town, and permitting redevelopment here will allow us to create an attractive gateway there. So just a couple of key standards that are included in the plan. There are two permitted principal uses. You should be able to guess what they are from my previous slide. The first one is special needs housing for disabled and or homeless veterans. And in the world of housing, all of these words have technical meanings, and these definitions are sort of derived from a combination of different statutes. But special needs housing, I should say, disabled and or homeless individuals is a class of special needs housing, and veterans are a class unto their own as well. The plan permits between 15 and 25 units of that type of housing, and that the sort of critical number here is 20. 20 is the number where if there's more than 20 units, they'll be able to get a full-time VA service provider on there. We included that little bit of a range just to account for unit sizes or sort of flexibility in design. The other key permitted use is the nonprofit charter membership organization outpost, and that's really the Legion's facility itself. So that permits their canteen, the banquet hall, areas for supportive services, very similar to what's currently on site. Plan requires one space per unit on the residential side for parking. We expect that these are going to be smaller units, just given the nature of the population that they'll be serving. The plan requires, this is sort of a modified item from your existing zoning, one space per 100 square feet of inhabited areas for parking for the nonprofit outpost. Two more things to flag on this, and then I'll move on. Setbacks were closely considered for how this building is going to lay out. We have a 25-foot setback from North Avenue property line, and just to put that into context, the Public Works building next door is about 15 feet from the property line. So this will be set back slightly further from the property line. The building will be a little taller than that building. And of course the height, 3 stories and 35 feet. The existing zoning there is 2.5 stories, 32.5 feet. Felt the 3rd story was necessary in order to get to the unit count required for that, to be able to sort of provide the number of units necessary to warrant these services required. So this is just a concept plan. This is not in the redevelopment plan, but this was sort of a working document in terms of laying out how these setbacks might work. You see the new building here, you see the 25-foot or so setback, you see parking for both uses in the side and in the rear, and I make this note at the bottom, but I'll just reiterate. This is just a concept plan. This project would ultimately need an agreement and a planning board approval. A couple of other things worth noting from the redevelopment plan. There are design standards in there that sort of set parameters for architecture and call out some precedents for architecture. The architecture will be advanced during the next phases of the project. One thing that we thought would be appropriate would be to sort of reference local civic buildings and/or sort of historic American legions in developing the architectural design. And I mentioned it once or twice before, but there will be an RDA, a redevelopment agreement, as a potential next phase if this moves forward. So just to close on a little bit of schedule and timeframe, you're considering this ordinance for introduction tonight. Should you introduce it, it would go to the planning board for master plan consistency, which could happen on September 6th, and then could be coming back to you for a second reading in September 19th meeting. Should the plan be adopted, the next step at some future date would be an RDA, a redevelopment agreement, and a site plan application. So thank you for listening. Thanks for letting me work on this. I think it's a great project, and I hope you choose to move forward. And any questions or comments are appreciated.
I think it's a fantastic project, and it's a win-win, I think, for the Legion, a win-win for our community, a win-win for veterans. So, no, I think it's great, and upgraded, beautiful facility. It's really, I just want to thank the Legion for your open-mindedness and initiative in thinking about this. And I do know, and at the right time, we'll acknowledge there are many people that volunteered hours of time and talent, I know, to kind of be thinking about this. And obviously Joe spearheaded it, but I know there was a lot of other community members that contributed, and I think there's been donors and fundraising and that kind of stuff. So it's I haven't been very involved in this project, but from the little I know, it definitely seems it's something that the community has really embraced, as they should. So I look forward to seeing this and helping this come to fruition. Looks great.
I just have one question, Chris. First of all, I totally agree with the mayor, so I won't repeat anything she said. But I know the DPW parks at this site.
Yeah.
So have we accommodated that in this
Yes.
plan? And just, I want to reassure the public that that's not going to cause parking issues in the area.
No, that's right. One of the accessory uses in the plan is an off-site parking for local uses, and there's a sort of section of the plan that addresses like the process for that and speaks to the current agreement that the town has with the Legion.
And Chris, what about handicap parking and all that? How's that going to be?
There'll be a required number of ADA parking spaces. That'll be worked out at the planning board. I don't know if the use would necessitate more ADA parking spaces. I'm not sure. That's certainly something that should be studied more closely when it moves forward. Yeah.
Chris, I think it's a great project. Was it possible, it's a great cause, to make it more dense than the current number of units there?
To make it more dense than this number of units. Well, we really wanted to keep it at 3 stories, just given the location. I guess unit sizes could go down, but the max of 25 based on the sort of concept layouts that we reviewed and that were worked up made sense based on the overall site layout and based on the sort of design restrictions and like the need to provide adequately sized
So
units.
why only 3 stories? One Westfield Place is 65, 70 feet.
Yeah, I mean,
Why
it's-
only 35?
Sure, it's a very different location. I mean, this is One Westfield Place, as you know, is in the sort of downtown section of the community forum of the master plan, which speaks to taller buildings. This building on the other side sits really on the outskirts of town. It's literally the last parcel, if not the second to last parcel. So given the location, the 3 stories there just was more appropriate.
Because on the entrance point from coming from Garwood, which is another entrance point to town, Westfield Crossing, I'm getting a lot of inquiries on that. What, do you know the height on that property?
Yeah, so that was a different situation though, because the way that that project originated was out of the town's affordable housing settlement. So that's really what drove the density on that project.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Chris, just wanted to say it's more of a comment than a question. Thank you for all the work that you've been doing on this. I mean, it's always been my view that you can't overstate that there's no republic and no democracy without the service of our veterans, and doing what we can to help provide housing to our homeless veterans is one of the most important ways that we can provide that kind of support that they deserve. And I mean, obviously, I encourage all of my fellow members of the council up here and everyone in town and Westfield to do what they can to support this project. And frankly, I also encourage other communities to take the same kind of creative steps that the Legion's done to try to find these kinds of opportunities in their communities as well.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so moving on, Ms. Lashi, are there any advertised hearings?
Yes, Mayor, there's an advertised hearing tonight for general ordinance number 2023-27, an ordinance to amend the land use ordinance of the town of Westfield to establish requirements for residential roof decks within the CBD and GB1 zone districts. Anyone wishing to be heard on general ordinance number 2023-27, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, Mayor, you may close the hearing.
This hearing is closed. Councilman Parman, please move for the adoption of general ordinance number 2023-27.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move for the adoption of General Ordinance Number 2023-27 on second reading, an ordinance to amend the land use ordinance of the town of Westfield to establish requirements for residential roof decks within the CBD and GB1 zone districts.
May I have a second? Second by Councilman Contract. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Hapgood,
Yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
LaGripa,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Contract, Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Mayor Bindle.
Yes, this motion has carried. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from Town Council Conference Session, Executive Session, regular meeting held July 11, 2023, and minutes from the Town Council Executive Session held December 13th, 2022, and March 28th, April 25th, June 13th, and June 22nd of 2023.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Dardia, second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? And Maureen, just a reminder, I was absent at the last council meeting, so I'll abstain from that. Opposed? This motion is carried. Good night, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Now it's time for open discussion by citizens. Anyone may come up to the microphone and speak to the council on any subject on which we have jurisdiction. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Yes, my name's Kevin Monroe. I live at 307 Windsor Avenue. I want to go back to that last planning board meeting. I believe that was rigged. I worked construction 15 years, right? And the council voted everything in. And I'm going to go piece by piece how it went. First, they did the playground that supposedly he signed in. From there, they went to the traffic light, which was a problem. Then from the traffic light, they went to the 4 charges that they had to put down, which was too many. That's another problem. Then they went to the fence, where the residents in Garwood was explaining why they didn't want a fence. All my brothers right here, they know why. Because when Savelle's was open, the 75 years, the fence was always open. Why? Any council member could tell me why? Because as us, even me, as a kid, we go through the Willow to the candy store. Even today, it's 2 ways for Garwood kids. I watch them Sunday come through the inspection station with their motor scooters. That's another reason it wasn't supposed to be. Then they didn't even know it was a bus stop there. Didn't even know it was a bus. Am I right, Stevie? The planners didn't even know it was a bus stop there. They was trying to fence stuff in, but your board voted all that in. Not only that, do y'all know who built them houses on Windsor Avenue? Can any one of y'all answer that question? Our parents, Stevie's grandfather, my uncles. You sent 3 letters, 3 certified letters to our neighborhood. We built that neighborhood. We built houses on Livingston Street. I think that was highly unfair how you sent 3 letters so y'all could vote this old building or playground that's supposed to come on South and Windsor. That's disrespectful to our community. Highly disrespectful. Can you explain it? First of all, they shouldn't even have voted in. They asked for a 15-minute recession to get things together, but your board still voted in. Only one told the truth was Mike. He said there was many, many faults. That's when they was going to the water sprinklers and everything. Am I right, Mike? Tell the truth. Am I telling the truth? 100%. It was wrong. And I think it was rigged. And y'all deserve us an apology. Our entire community should have got a letter. How could you vote something like that in? Blame me. Y'all want to build up there. When our parents built that whole block, you sent out 3 certified letters, 200 feet, and he gave the answer. Am I right, Mr. Tapp? Am I telling the truth? Tell the truth. They sent out 3 certified letters, only 200 feet. Who gave us the answer? You did. Highly disappointed. No respect. When y'all gonna do something for our neighborhood, we've been asking for speed bumps.
I'm sorry, Mr. Monroe, if you allow next speaker, please, thank you.
First, I'll say good evening, Mayor, Council, and I'll say thank you. I appreciate the work that each of you is doing. In light of all the...
I'm sorry, just state your name and
Oh,
address
I'm
for the
sorry.
record.
My name is Donnell Carr, Hort Street. In light of all the many tasks before you and of some magnitude, what I'm here for is you might consider relatively minor. But I'll state it. I'll state it as a complaint. I can't grow grass in my front yard. And the reason I cannot grow grass in my front yard is because of the root systems that are encroaching from 2 big trees in the medium that belong to the town. These trees are probably 50 to 60 years old each. They're dying. And they need to come down. At least that is my opinion. Now, I have approached the local government, the town, more than once, and I don't feel yet that I've had a satisfactory response. Besides the fact that the roots are showing in my yard and I can't get grass to grow, there's a safety issue. Every time there is a storm, rainy weather like the past few days, branches come down. So I am concerned about the safety. I'm afraid that something's going to come down on somebody one day. So I want to go on record that I'm reporting this as a complaint to the town of Westfield, and I would certainly appreciate if you would do something about it. And that is all I have to say. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Carr, what was your exact address so that the town can follow? I didn't hear your exact.
Said 4.
641 Hort.
641 Hort.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Greg Casco, 434 Everson Place. I understand the passion of Kevin Monroe, Steve Barden, and the other neighbors of that community around Windsor Avenue. Having gone to school with both Kevin, a little older than me, but Stevie, we ran track together. I know their commitment to that community runs decades long. They've both raised money. They've given their time. They've been able to accommodate the youth of their community with backpacks, school supplies, as these kids go off to school every September, and I applaud their effort. I came to this microphone almost 5 years ago, and I understand what Kevin is talking about, we asked for speed bumps. And I told them, and I'm a man of my word, and Kevin knows that. I've helped him out in the past. And I would still request that do whatever you can to get speed bumps by Windsor Avenue Park. I know that there's a process that you have to go through. I know that you have to get certain traffic counts. I know that the chief of police has to be involved. And I know it's not easy for you just to go out and put speed bumps up. I do this kind of work now. I do municipal engineering inspection. And I know there's a process that takes place. And unfortunately, as residents, sometimes they don't understand that process. I do, but I would implore that you please do what you can. As far as the Windsor Avenue Park that Mr. Monroe was talking about, I delved into the over 70 pages of resolution number 134-2021. And in Article 4, it discusses that park. And it's my understanding that the developer is donating $380,000 to our Westfield Park Fund. The developer is developing that plot of land to the tune of $300,000 to $350,000. That developer is deeding that piece of property over to the town. To me, that's a win. I understand residents down there are concerned, but from what I understand, it's not a playground park, which I would be concerned if my kids were playing on the corner of South Ave and Windsor. From what I gather, it's going to be more of a green space with benches, landscaping. I think a Foundation Park at the Circle. Foundation Park has fencing there. I was down there for one night a couple weeks ago for Sweet Sounds to watch a high school band play. Perhaps there's going to be events like that once this park goes in. I do understand their concerns. Perhaps we can, or you can, explain a little more what exactly is going to be put there. And I think this is a win for the town. You know, my wife and I were just discussing our future plans, looking to sell my house, but I'm not leaving Westfield. My daughter, Sarah, brought up a condo or a two-family right on the corner down by Windsor, across from the old inspection lot. I'm like, I could be his neighbor. Play basketball with him at the court. He'd probably kick my rear end. He used to do it at the YMCA about 20 years ago. But anyway, what I'm getting at, I want to stay in town, and that's a place that I could go and I could sit. I've sat at Foundation Park. I've gone over to the park over across from where I live on Everson to the playground by Lincoln School. And I think we need more areas like that. And I think this is a win, again, for the town. The amount of money that the developer, we're talking $1 million plus, that we're getting. Back in the day, I remember when this town didn't get things like that from developers. And I have to credit Councilman Contract and Councilman LaGrippo for holding meetings with residents to explain. And I know some people are often busy or they don't get the word that there's a meeting, but I know you're just not doing this willy-nilly. Again, I do express their concerns, but I do understand after reading all those documents that we are in a win-win situation here with this. And I want to thank you for doing the job that you're doing. Because again, gentlemen like Kevin Monroe, Steve Barden, his neighbors, I remember them coming to the microphone 6, 7, 8 years ago, and they weren't heard. I know that you can't respond to us while we're up here, and you will at the end. Things have, not changed in that respect, but to give them the opportunity to speak, for me to speak, thank you. You guys are doing a good job. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing no other further comments, I close this portion of the meeting. Oh, Mr. Carr leave? I don't know. I was just gonna, Oh, okay, I didn't see him back there. All right, well, I just, I think that's something that we can address with Jim Gilday. I'm not sure who you spoke to, but certainly that's, we can manage and better understand kind of your tree concerns. There you are back there, Mr. Carr. And thank you, Mr. Monroe. I really appreciate it. You know, known you for a long time, my son's basketball coach. So I was trying to get the gist. I wasn't at the planning board meeting, so I wasn't sure exactly what your points of reference. No, that's okay. But what I do want to make sure, provide some clarity what Mr. Casco was saying. So just to be clear, is, I think this is what the concern is so the Westfield Crossing project that is currently underway on South Avenue has really, I guess, 4 components to it. 2 buildings on the north side of South Avenue, and then there's 2 parcels on the south side of South Avenue. One is going to be a smaller building. The other piece that I think you were referencing, Mr. Casco, was originally supposed to be a parking lot as part of the redevelopment plan. So, and keep in mind, it's their property. So that area triangle was gonna be a parking lot associated with the development. But I think Councilman Contract and Councilman LaGrippo, I know, had met with some neighbors. I think even prior to that, we had expressed some concerns about, like, I don't know, just seeing the parking and all the parking that was there, and could we better utilize that property? And so that parking lot, based upon, I think, traffic safety feedback and our opportunity to reconfigure the parking of those buildings, did exactly what Mr. Casco referenced. Instead, we got the developer to commit to making a public space. I say a plaza is probably more like it. It's not meant to be a playground. Windsor Playground is the playground. It's really meant to be like a place that people could sit and have a green space and benches. And the beauty of it was they're deeding us the property, which is assessed at about $400,000. They're spending about $350,000 in public improvements, and then they're providing another $380,000 for our park improvement fund. So the developer is giving us over $1 million in public improvements for this, which is pretty unheard of. We had made a decision to accelerate the improvements to Windsor Park Playground, which is what those dollars were earmarked for. So we accelerated that renovation, which we're in the final stages of today, and then when that money comes in, we'll reimburse the park improvement fund for those expenses. So regarding speed bumps, there is a process. I know Councilman Dardia knows. He reviewed it when he was chair of the Public Safety Committee. We can always revisit again, and I'm sure Councilman Contract and LaGrippo would be happy to talk to you again to address safety concerns. And I'm sorry, public comment is over, so sorry about that. But happy to address concerns after the meeting too, if that would help, Mr. Monroe. With that, let's move on to bills and claims. Councilman Hapgood.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move bills and claims in the amount of $1,647,806.81.
May I have a second? Signed by Councilman Contract. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried. Next on the agenda, reports to standing committees. We have the Finance Policy Committee. Councilman Hapgood.
Thank you again, Mayor. I have 12 resolutions I'd like to move as a package. The first, a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for the Westfield Police Department overpayment. Second, a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant to refund the Board of Adjustment special hearing fee. Third, a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for dog licenses for July 2023. 4, a resolution authorizing the CFO to refund Recreation Department fees. 5, a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw warrants for overpaid taxes for 2023. 6, a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw warrants for 2021-2022 pursuant to the Tax Court of New Jersey. 7, a resolution authorizing award of contract for the crossing guard management services. That's the ACMS contract that Councilwoman Root mentioned earlier. 8, a resolution authorizing the CFO to issue warrants for Union County and Union County open space taxes. 9, a resolution authorizing the CFO to issue warrants for special district taxes. 10, a resolution authorizing submission of an application for Kids Recreation Grant Program. 11, a resolution authorizing an application in connection with Greening Union County Grant Program. And 12, a resolution to approve insertion of a special item of revenue in the municipal budget related to the national opioid settlement.
May I have a second? Second by Councilman Contract. Any discussion?
Mayor, I'll be voting no on outsourcing the crossing guard program again this year, mainly because some concern regarding the number of posts that have been reduced over the past few years. And my biggest concern is the intersection of Grove and Boulevard. With more and more people going back to work, hope Chief takes a hard look at that intersection. Not to sound dramatic, but I've seen a couple near misses as far as people trying to get to work in the morning. More and more people going back to work. They can't get across Grove. You got cars, people trying to drop their kids off at school. You got kids crossing. And the same thing around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the traffic backs up along Boulevard. So I hope the town does take a hard look at that intersection when school starts. Thank you.
Councilman LaGriffo, if I could just respond, because I have been involved in the contracting process with ACMS and have spoken to the people that run the program, and this is the 5th year that we're going to be working with them. It's a very fluid program, so every year there are different numbers of kids crossing in different places, and so we do work with the supervisors of ACMS to evaluate the needs at the beginning of every school year, and so if we find that there are places where we might need to move resources around, then we do that.
Okay. Well, the two intersections that I do receive, even through last year, were Grove and Boulevard and Clover, two intersections near Jefferson School that people would like to see a crossing guard reinstated.
Okay, I'd be happy to, have you pass those comments along.
Yeah, we haven't
to
heard that
us
in
and-
public safety, so.
Yeah, have you communicated
You should
that?
you should let us know that, that'd be great.
When I was on the Public Safety Committee and told the Mayor Brindle remove me, these are topics that we discussed.
Well, since it's concerning to everyone here, we should hear it, that'd be
Pass
wonderful.
them along.
Yeah.
Pass them along.
So I'm sorry, you haven't communicated those to the chief?
No, I have
or-
communicated.
I haven't gotten those emails.
What's that?
Jim will tell you that I've communicated.
Okay, well, just send them along again, because obviously, public safety is a huge concern, particularly as it
Number
relates
one.
to children and them getting safely to school.
Right, because 2 years ago, again, it was an election year, Councilman Contract and I advocated for crossing guards to be restored in Central, which they were, Central and Clifton and Sycamore. So this is a key intersection, especially Boulevard and Grove, that it doesn't make sense because Summit and Boulevard has a crossing guard, but not Boulevard and, no.
Every
Yeah,
year is,
just my
every
concern.
year is
Yeah,
different, and
thank you.
that's why we keep.
We will
it open.
definitely
Yeah.
be looking at it again.
Councilman LaGripo, I think in a general sense, the town has made the intersection that you're mentioning, Grove and Boulevard, safer by way of the center medians that we have installed there. They have proven to reduce the accidents all over town, and I think we have seen a reduction also at this location too. So that intersection by way of those center islands has made it safer for those students that you're concerned about, rightfully so, 100%. I'm with you. We should be doing everything we can to make things safer for our kids. As Councilwoman Habgood has mentioned, the program is fluid. Definitely take that into consideration when when your comments make their way to the public safety.
Okay, thank you. But do you know, Councilman, how many times the sign has been hit on the island at Grove and Boulevard since that island was installed? About 3 or 4 times.
So I think actually the accident data showed, I think the accident data shows that those the temporary islands worked. That's why they were made permanent. I also think that the digital speed signs, of which we authorized 10 more tonight, have also helped improve safety in town. There are digital speed signs on Boulevard. There are digital speed signs, on Grove. There are digital speed signs on Summit. So I think they're working. They're also helping out on Sycamore. We just looked at data. The digital speed signs have helped slow cars down on Sycamore by the playground. So I haven't heard the requests personally for crossing guards at Grove and Boulevard or Boulevard and Clover, but I think we have a great relationship with ACMS. We can ask them to reevaluate. I feel confident in the team that worked on this. I didn't personally, that they looked at student counts. They looked at feedback. Last year's program, I've been assured, was run very smoothly without complaint, which is why I supported the reauthorization of it. But absolutely, if there's requests coming in from residents, we should acknowledge it, look at it, and then decide. But let's be clear, right? You know, we have to prioritize limited resources, right? We had a program of 52 guards that couldn't be staffed. Now it's been right-sized. We have to make sure those people are in the right place to maximize the benefit. I mean, this is a typical classic business case, right? Where you have finite resources and you have to maximize the benefit. So they have to look at the number of students crossing to make sure a crossing guard is warranted, right? Because you can't put them everywhere. So that's why you have a company that specializes in it, so they actually know where to put them. They know what the thresholds are, and then you combine it together with the data we collect to make a good decision.
So duly noted that you're voting against it, but I do think, to Councilman Contract's point and to what Councilman Root said earlier, that our police officers were previously resolving posts 100 times in a school year, and now it's 3. So I would argue that those police officers that used to be being crossing guard duty are now doing police work and are having a general enhancement of the public safety overall during the school year. So I think that cannot be overstated about the importance on public safety of having that benefit. So
Well, I mean, a
with
lot
that,
of the program was during COVID. I mean, this is the 5th year of the program. The first 2 years weren't very impressive, and I think everyone here could admit to that. We're coming out of COVID, obviously, so we'll see what this year brings.
and we're very encouraged, but duly noted. So
And Mayor, I just wanted to add to the comments before we vote on this, because I meant to say something at the beginning of the meeting about the 2 grants that we're voting on tonight. The first is a grant from the Kids Recreation Trust Fund, and that money's going to be used as a part offset for a major renovation of the Memorial Park Playground in 2024, so that we'll have a fully ADA compliant facility for the community. And the second grant is the annual Greening Union County grant, which is going to fund ongoing tree planting initiatives. We always like money coming in, so I like to call those things
yeah,
out.
thank you, very nice. Okay, so all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried. Next is the Public Safety, Transportation, Parking Committee. Councilman Root.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 3 resolutions to move as a package. First one, resolution authorizing an award of contract for the purchase of solar-powered speed displays, 10 of them. Number 2, resolution authorizing an award of contract for the purchase of dispatch consoles for the Westfield Police Department. And 3, a resolution authorizing an award of contract for the Fire Department feasibility study.
May I have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion has carried.
Thank you. I would also like to move General Ordinance Number 2023-28 on first reading, and ordinance to amend the code of the Town of Westfield, Chapter 13.
May I have a second? Second. Second by Councilman Dardia. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Habgood,
Yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
Grippo,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Contract. Yes. Dardia. Yes. Root,
Yep.
Mayor Bindle.
Yes, this motion is carried. Next is code review. Councilman Parmalee.
Thanks, Mayor. I have 3 resolutions, 2 of which I'd like to move in as a package. The first is a resolution supporting Revolution NJ. The second is a resolution to approve children's amusement device license.
May I have a second? Second by Councilman Contract, and I would like to make a comment while Julie Dudell and Jay Hershey is here. The resolution approving Revolutionary New Jersey actually is our commitment to setting up a committee to actually start planning Westfield's celebration of our 250th anniversary in 2026. And I would like to formally ask here and appoint Julie Diddell and Jay Hershey as chair and vice chair of that committee, assuming you all would accept that. But I think I can't, as we said earlier, I can't state enough about how this has just created so much energy in town, and the fact that Westfield could play such an important role in something so important to our country's history is a real honor, and I can't think of any two better to be leading it. So hopefully you all will take those roles and help us get a great committee together to start planning that celebration. Terrific. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? The motion has carried.
I'd also like to move a resolution to approve the ballot question and interpretive statement on the Edison School Multipurpose Fields Project.
May I have a second? Second by Councilman Katz. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Hagman,
Yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
Regrippo,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Contract, Darby, Root,
Yes.
Mayor Bindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
And then lastly, I'd like to move General Ordinance Number 2023-29 on first reading, an ordinance adopting the American Legion redevelopment plan.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Root. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Hagman,
Yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
Regrippo,
Yes.
Katz,
Absolutely, yes.
Contract, Darby, Root,
Yes.
Mayor Bindle.
Yes, this motion is carried. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Just wanted
I'm
to say,
sorry.
just want to thank Julie and Jay. You had no choice now, you're stuck.
Yes, exactly.
But I just want to thank them for their volunteer services and everything that they've done so far, and just want to say, obviously, we'll work together. Staff, we'll form a committee, staff, and of course, you two, to start that process off, is never too late to start planning. So, thank you very
We're
much.
very excited. Thank you for that, Jim.
Thank you.
So, motion to adjourn? So moved by Councilman Contract, second. Second by Councilman Dardia, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried, and this meeting is adjourned. Good night, everybody.